Hey, Paul.
Oh, hey, Raj. You're,
What's that, Paul?
I said I didn't think you were going to be on.
Yeah, I just got done with the UF field visit and then a subsequent meeting. So
Gotcha.
we'll see if we get done quicker.
All right. Well, it's up to you, I guess, if you want to stay or have other things to do. If I'm on, I have only plausible deniability that Raj isn't on. So it's up to you.
Sounds good. Then I'll get off.
Yeah. Yeah, I know you're down in Florida, so you got a million things going on
Hmm.
right now. So,
Okay.
but I got a pretty good grasp of what the what Chris believes they might have some questions on. So, you might have to just potentially rework the EV charging systems a little bit or something as far as locations go. But
Yeah, and you have access to all the files, Binghamton files, right? Like,
I do. Yep. Yep.
okay.
So I can handle it.
Okay. Thank you, Paul.
You're welcome. All right. We'll see you.
Okay, bye.
No? I'm just all right. Today's Thursday, May 8th. It is 1:37 p.m. and this is a meeting with the Finance Committee meeting. I would call the meeting to order with the clerk. Well, I guess I'll do the roll. I'm here, Robert Devon, the Finance Committee. Councilman Rathmel is here. Councilman Hotchkiss is here. Councilman Karetsky is here. There's Graham joining us. And Siemens, we have Chris Cat, and Paul. Hello, Paul. I don't think Paul was there.
Probably not a council meeting.
Yeah.
So Raj would have joined us before.
Yes.
Yes, Raj.
Unforgettable. Yes.
All right, so we're here to discuss the performance contract and improvements, and a lot of council's concerns were around the scope of work, what elements should or shouldn't be included, and kind of what bang we're getting for our buck. And so, does anyone want to kick off, or do we want to take it? Nobody wants it.
Well, I mean,
right.
I guess,
Concerns, I think.
right, and I kind of pushed for a meeting on this because some of those, the EV chargers in the proposal are in my district at Ross Park Zoo, and I bumped into the executive director from the Discovery Center, and she was kind of like, where are my EV chargers? So I wanted to see what the next steps were, so I pinged the mayor and our council president to see how do we get the discussion going again to figure out how to move forward. And so I think that
do we want to let's take it chunk by chunk, and the rest that off the EV chargers. I think that might be the thing of most discussion around it.
yeah, sure.
And so,
If I could I preface just a little bit about how we got here with the EV chargers, right? One of the primary concerns was making sure that EV charging capacity was spread out throughout the city, right? So not just concentrated downtown or in one particular area that already had access to charging. So spreading it out so a maximum of both residents and visitors could utilize this. One of the interesting drivers here is not just the adoption of the EV vehicles, but the amount of research being done here in the southern tier, specifically at the university, SUNY Binghamton, around battery storage, climate change, sustainability.
okay.
With the NSF funding, yeah. So the other thing, so as it relates to the EVs, right? I've got the list here. I would hopefully, as we sit around this table, obviously the more EVs that we include, the number of stations, or I should say maybe the less EVs that we include affects in a positive way the cash flow for the city because we're reducing the amount of expenses. But overall, I do think that having these level 2 chargers and kind of building out this network would put the city of Binghamton in a really strong position to be a local municipal leader. If we want to talk about specific things, if council wants to see reduction in the total number, I think we can kind of come to an agreement on that. I know there was something brought up about, does DPW garage really need 6? Could it do 3? I'm fine with that. I just think that when it comes to EVs, we can maximize the number. Maybe we can shave off a few here or there, maybe some
Or relocate
if you
some.
want added. I'm fine with that. It could be a collaboration, but I think that if we can come up with a unified goal here, I'm fine with whatever happens. And obviously, from a Siemens perspective, all they will do is enact whatever we set. So if it's 42 or if it's 4, it doesn't matter. The cash flow works out. But I just think that we have a really great opportunity to kind of make a statement as it relates to EVs and climate change. So were there any on this list that provided any initial red flags, things you want to see change?
Well, I know, first, so I think Rapido Stadium, there's 65 home games a year-ish, plus maybe we get the playoffs. So we've got maybe 70 nights a year, game lasts 3 hours. That's all of the Rumble ponies and the staff are driving EVs. I think we have way too many deployed at Rapido Stadium. I also think there is opportunity, I think we should probably aim to put a couple in the city hall garage for city vehicles. I mean, we have an expanding EV fleet. Some of them would like to get parked in our garage building. I think up here. And my third question is, the rapid chargers are not in Water Street. Where is them? That is not in this funding. What is the status of those?
So I'll answer the last one first. So the rapid charger, as part of the contract with the GC, how they were procuring it, was north of $80,000 for one charger. I did not accept that. I thought that was too expensive and thought that we could explore that option through the energy performance contract.
I would then recommend adding whatever those number of charges are into this proposal.
Okay.
Probably by subtracting from Rapido Stadium.
And the other level 2 chargers are bought and everything, I'm pretty sure. It was just that level 3, the high end thing, that the cost to me was too much. And I figured that we, through energy performance contract, could get a better rate on it.
Is the Rapido Stadium parking that?
But let me ask what the rationale was behind 13.
Yeah. So there's new residential development going in that area, right? It's going to be under construction. The rationale was one, major transportation change. There's parking spots where people can go to park an EV where they're not detracting from other useful purposes on non-home games, right? So they're not taking up like a prime parking spot at the charge points across from City Hall or at a park or something like that. There's certainly electrical capacity.
But the lot's not currently open for free parking, generally speaking.
Yeah, I mean, if you are, I think that so first and foremost, we will be charging for these things. The revenue projections were not included in the energy performance contract because to me, it was too risky of a revenue proposition. We don't know what these will generate. So I didn't want to include that and fall short of our numbers. But people need EV chargers if they're getting off the highway, if they're at home games, whatever. We wanted to, again, showcase Rapido Stadium as a place where you could, drive electric vehicles. I also think that it could be a revenue opportunity and a branding opportunity for the stadium itself. Getting signage or otherwise, our dealership to sponsor certain things, aspects. Maybe you get free parking if you drive an electric vehicle. That was one of the things I've been talking to the team about. So using this as a branding opportunity for the city's EV network as well.
Was it like, so is that available to like residential folks on the Navigate?
Yes. It's a public parking lot.
Okay. Because there was the proposal that there would be like a contract to meet the parking requirements for the stadium loss project that had to do with this parking lot.
And
I'm
we did.
thinking
Yes,
so
because of the change in affordable housing requirements, we don't have it they won't be using as part of their planning requirement. But these would be open public chargers that anyone could use.
An idea that came to me was, because I don't think any of our hotels have EV charging.
Some of them do.
Some of them do now?
Yeah, the Doubletree.
Doubletree has, okay.
Yeah, the Doubletree has EV chargers. And then the other,
Holiday Inn.
I don't believe the Holiday Inn does. Doubletree does, and then the truck stop, as your sign's yellow, it's going out of town, has McDonald's in it.
It's not in the city.
No, yeah,
So
it's by
Okay, well,
Starbucks.
I'm
No.
one of the hotels already has, because I just want, I know when we travel, we're looking for a hotel that has EV charging. And, implemented an occupancy tax for our hotels. So I was thinking if they didn't have EV charging, maybe there was something we could
You know,
to
it's,
hear to
yeah, it's pretty relatively.
if they were
accessible.
interested.
So can we just go through like each one in order and just get in, you know, do we think that 4 at Sherry Lindsay and the dog park is appropriate, more or less?
I guess I have a question in terms of cost. Like, is it that the setup cost is basically the same no matter how much, you know, for setting up the electrical and all that, no matter how many you're putting in? Like, are we getting a bulk discount basically? Like, if we're putting in more, I feel like for multiple times, or
You're always going to have some level of economies of scale, right? Like if you go from 13 to 1, you know, obviously that's going to make the 1 go up. But I think we can fit, right now, everything we have in here fits in the project, the price we talked about, et cetera. So if we go down, that's only going to create additional positive cash flow for the city. So if, you know, 42 chargers rather in this project now, but if we go through site by site and say, okay, is maybe 13 isn't appropriate for Marabido, council doesn't feel like that's wise, maybe you want 10 or you want 7, and then we get to the bottom, we'll figure out what the delta is and where you want to relocate those or just cut them out completely.
so Sherry Lindsay, that's yours.
Kind of I think it like feels on the map. It feels like the geographic stuff, and fills the spot geographically. But then it's like without chargers there, it's like I don't know what these.
It's a state park, right? There's the bar park, and hopefully an expansion of the park here in the next couple of years.
So yeah, I mean, I think it's fine.
And so one of the things that came up in this morning's kickoff for the parking study that we're doing for the downtown area, I asked about the expertise of the consultants on that project with EV, and they were like, yeah, you know, we can think about in terms of how numbers and what makes sense there, but the main thing with EV charging that you need to be thinking about is enforcement. And I like the approach to have them spread out through the city, but that also means that enforcement needs to be spread out, traffic enforcement needs to be spread out, or metering, right? So I don't know where that factors in here.
Sure.
And I just want to make sure we're taking that into consideration. And thankfully, in tandem to this, we also have consultants looking at the downtown aspect, that are aware of my concerns about EV charging.
What we have found to be the best enforcement mechanism is economic. If you leave your car charged there, right, for significant periods of time, that's going to cost money, right? So that's you know, in and of itself, an enforcement mechanism that you don't have with regular parking violators, right? They're not necessarily, you know, they might buy the ticket and then be there for 4 hours on an EV charger. It's taking you 3 hours to charge. You're paying for that, right? So it's an economic enforcement mechanism to encourage folks to do the right thing.
I'm trying to remember if I feel like I've been at chargers where once you're full or close to full, that the price increases for the energy to try and disincentivize basically taking up a parking spot forever.
And the other item too is you've got the volume. So right now at the park where you have like an incredibly high usage on the chargers that are there now, there's only like 2 chargers. So you have 2 people who are parked there. There's
I think they live in the neighborhood.
Yeah, they live in the neighborhood. It's free charging. So we've got the economic disincentive, plus we'll also have more chargers.
All right, so we're okay with Sherry Lindsay. First Ward Park, does anyone have what First Ward Park?
Ask.
Let's leave it alone for now. Recreation Park's getting through. Narrow for a second. Golf course?
What's district is that? Still hasn't been to it.
That's also the district sport, but that's gonna be only pretty much seasonal use, right?
So I thought didn't we build some sort of deck or something? I forgot.
Yeah.
Did we build something there? Are
There's a deck up
we
there.
expanding
But
the?
there's literally hundreds of people up there during the day, you know, all golf season long.
Yeah,
It's probably.
from 7 a.m. till 7 p.m. I mean, popular as Rapido Stadium in some ways.
Which is a shame, so we went on baseball. You should, it's fun. Last night was a walk-off win in the bottom, it was the ninth, it was great.
I couldn't get either of you to go to the baseball game.
Fantastic. All right. So I think Ross Park Zoo has been a back and forth.
Yeah,
Issue.
I couldn't get a number out of them. I reached out to both Phil Ginter and Dr. Myers and told them this meeting was happening today and asked them if they wanted to send me a letter that I could read into the record or anything like that. I received confirmation of my email going at least, but it did not answer any sort of specific.
Yeah, if I recall the map, all 6 are up on the Discovery Center and near the Story Garden, so nothing down in the zoo
And
line.
that's based on where the electrical service is most efficient.
I'm gonna double check my email one more time.
Because I've heard from Discovery Center people, I think both sides, like, we're losing too many spots to EV exclusive spots that are closest to the building. From one end of things, the other side is where our chargers, we have people want them. So I think it's I don't know. I've been hearing mixed messages. So I don't know who really speaks to it. I don't think the quantity is the problem on this. I mean, given the use of the park and the Discovery Center, I still think it's a place where, you know, people are in the Discovery Center or the zoo for a couple of hours, so it's a good chance to get charged.
And they receive county occupancy tax money as a tourist destination. In terms of thinking of it as a county access, county resource that people might actually be driving some distance for. Yeah, so I just received, you know how important, this is from Monday, you know how important this project is, and we appreciate your support, but no detailed number.
Question mark. DPW garage. So do we have a good use case for 6 chargers there?
I spoke to Josh. I don't know if he emailed council, but I mean, that's a place that's not really open to the public. So this would be for city employees. There are a number of city employees that do work there. I don't know what the current EV adoption is. I think it's reasonable that 6 is probably too many, and that, you know, 2 would be probably okay for that in the short term.
So DPW doesn't have city car charging?
No.
Okay.
No, this would be for, you know, employees, or if we wanted to buy buy an electric DPW vehicle for a supervisor or otherwise. But I think 6 of the DPW garage is probably a little too many.
Okay.
If we want to knock that down to 2 and
Let's
say
call that
4,
yeah,
that would be good.
What did we say? Sorry.
2 from 6.
I guess, so leaving aside a second, Water Street ramp, how many are we looking to add in to cover the spots we have at Water Street? And then what does it take to add the rapid charging that we have, all the conduit wiring there for on the first level?
As it relates to level 2, those are, I believe, the equipment is there. As it relates to the level 1, that's just simply procuring the actual
1 or 3, which way does it go to? Which one is the fast one?
It's
1 or
3.
3?
3 is the fastest.
So the level 3 is simply just a procurement thing. So my opinion on that is we run things through Siemens, see what kind of price they can get us, compare that to what we can get through OGS or otherwise, and then just purchase the equipment, assuming that we feel that it's a good use for it.
So you're saying we may or may not wrap it into this agreement based on your pricing?
Yeah, so, and we can always amend it. So what we're developing here today, if we reach consensus on the chargers and any other remaining questions that we have, that can move forward. In the meantime, we can amend do an amendment to take care of the ramp if we want to add a charger, if the city rather wants to add a charger in there.
And then my question about adding some to the city garage. I think we have, we're developing a fleet of city electric vehicles. I think we should have some
And
chargers in the building.
And it's being used more for Black Bears games and public events as
So
well.
that underground here
Yeah.
has nothing to do with the city. That's a county infrastructure.
County.
We have an agreement with the county. We don't do any maintenance. We don't do anything. So it's having down here underground is all county. We have a surface lot across the street that could have
I mean,
a
that
couple more
would be,
chargers.
that would be better than nothing.
Yeah. Or 7 Ollie Street, right? That little surface lot that has some metered parking. We could add it over there. Add in a couple over there.
Yeah, but so it's, I mean, it's literally like the electric cars we have for code, like they're parked here, I mean, that's why I think it would be ideal to have in our garage downstairs, but
Well, those cars aren't parked in our garage downstairs.
right now.
What about across the street here where it's like, it says city vehicles only?
Yeah, so that's where we charge our vehicles right now.
Yeah.
But we don't have enough that it requires us to have more than that infrastructure.
Oh, we've got 6 then?
5 or 6.
We don't have any of that.
I think Buffalo's switching their police vehicles over to EV.
Be surprised to hear that in its entirety because of the runtime and the run computers, but interesting.
East side and southeast side don't have chargers. Right.
There would be plenty of room in Webster.
Okay.
Parking lot. Which, I mean, we've seen a lot more action because they're not Southside Easters, but
The pickleballers, yeah.
Oh, yeah.
I mean, there's none of them are from the neighborhood, but we have seen a lot more activity at the lot. And they're using they're not, the lot's not necessarily filling up. A lot of them are using just the side streets, which is sort of okay. That whole side it's the park anyway, but I think there would still be room at the.
On 2 at Webster Street on the home ave where there's that full in parking. Is that where it would be? Isn't that Homer? Excuse me.
Oh.
Homer, right? Is that what it is right there?
The one lot's right on Webster. Homer, I don't think there's a.
Okay.
It would be right on Webster. It would be that front lot that runs in front of the pool.
Yeah,
The only
That's
lot.
what okay. So we can do 2 there,
2 at Webster Street.
2 at Webster Street Park.
Webster Street.
And obviously it's got to, the infrastructure has to be vetted, but that's fine.
Right.
East side Fairview doesn't have any real,
Use case right now.
well, it's not necessarily, it doesn't have a use case, but it doesn't really have a parking lot. Right at Fairview. That was what, everything's on street and kind of neighborhood.
So, I mean, to support these extra ones, what if we take Rapido down to 813?
Okay.
I think that'll cover a lot of what we've added. And still be a fairly big chunk of.
So we got
charger.
-4 DPW garage and then -5 on Rapido.
Right, and
We're adding 2 at Webster.
2 at Webster, and I'd like 2 either at Hawley Street or can we ask the county if we can put 2 chargers in the basement? Or is that a big ball of wax?
I feel like that's
A big can of worms.
No, because they use it for Black Bears games. It's public parking.
What did you say?
Let's not make it more complicated with the contract if we're trying to.
All right. I'll settle for 2 more at Hawley Street.
What did we do with Water Street?
Or Collier Street, I
We
mean.
added on
That's an unknown, not known at the moment, but so we'll have some
Yeah.
wiggle room now.
So two more at Collier Street.
2 Collier, 2 Webster, so we've taken away 5, we've taken away 9 and added 4. So we've got wiggle room for Water Street.
Okay.
I think. Does that make
Yep.
sense?
Yep.
Any other comments? I wish Mr. Dunn were here. Well, it's been a lot of time. All right, why don't we just chunk back through each of the scope of work sections? Anyone have anything else to say about the chart? Okay. Let me go back to the scope of work section here. So the first thing was the lighting LED upgrades.
Yep.
Gotten some feedback from different city folks in different departments, different levels, saying, hey, look, we've been doing this and that, a lot of piecemeal upgrades here and there. How accurate do you feel your survey still is of literally every light fixture in these
So,
buildings?
yeah, you are right. There has been piecemeal upgrades, and why the lighting package on this particular project isn't larger. When we first started surveying City of Binghamton buildings, we thought there was going to be a much larger lighting package because the last time anything major was done was back in about 2001. In the interim, what's happened since 2001 is whether it's through departmental initiatives, oh, we got a little bit of NYSERDA funding here or there, you've had a lot of departments chew around the edges. So this is cleaning up anything that isn't done.
But Siemens did a physical walk
Oh, yeah.
every single.
And it remains.
Yes. Yes.
It remains fairly accurate.
Oh, yeah.
So
For
4,588 fixtures are still relatively in this.
Yes. And if we run into something where someone has changed out one room, that's wonderful. Now we'll have some overstock to get the city back.
Any comments on LED lighting upgrade? Although I'll complicated also is out there. I know we just were discussing at BLDC the decorative lights on Washington Street that were upgraded some time ago, and there's some funding for those. Do we have any other spots like that in the city that we should catch? Where we have we did upgrades maybe 15 years ago or stuff that we're not catching that might have been under a different.
We looked into that though, but isn't the issue that the cost of those decorative is not something that we will actually get overall savings through the conversion? And we went through this. We went through this in 2014 too with the LED. That doing it actually will lose you money because of the cost of retrofitting.
Kills the cash flow. There's also some opportunities on some of your highway lighting that may or may not produce positive cash flow. Our thought process was go in, achieve the quickest savings possible for the city, the quickest paybacks with your interior lighting, demonstrate the success of that, and then if there is other opportunities, certainly bring them back to for consideration of council.
The next portion is please speak up. All right, duct sealing. So my concern with this is that we're in a 50-year-old building or so here, and I'm continually worried that as soon as we touch something, it's going to cause a cascade effect of other things. And the first item under this is a pre-inspection. And I was wondering if it is wise to do the pre-inspection beforehand to actually see if we're going to have any major issues.
So we don't believe that you will run into any major issues. And
that's on the record.
Right. This is a facility improvement measure that we routinely do in buildings of this age and similar structures. We're not disturbing anything. We're not ripping anything out. We're simply sealing the ductwork, right? So any of those little microscopic holes, so to speak, that appear with stuff that's aged, we're sealing that ductwork so that it can't be penetrated, so that you're receiving the maximum efficiency off of your air conditioning and and heating, right? So you're not losing heat or air.
Right. It's essentially to establish the precondition as much as anything of how much leakage the existing system has, such that once we're done sealing it, we will know how much improvement there is. We have already been there to identify, the opportunity. And as Chris said, when I impact the ductwork, really what it is we're going to be taking pre-measurements before we start the process. So you see it started at the pre-inspection and then kind of second to the last bullet, we have the post-sealing inspection to document,
That's coming over a radio telephone.
Yeah.
We're so
Paul,
sorry.
Paul, your microphone sounds terrible, and we can't
hear
understand
anything
anything that you're
you're
saying. So.
Maybe put it in the
Try
chat.
something
Or-
Yeah.
All right. Is that any better?
Oh, I have the
Sorry.
EVs in Buffalo were for the parking enforcement for the police department.
Yeah.
Just to correct myself
Yeah,
on
I
record
wish
here.
we could, but
By any chance, is that any better for you? You hear me better now?
Oh, his connection. All right, so let's put a pin in that. We get Paul on the actual phone.
Any better now?
Needle point bipolarization installation, I think, is something that someone on the council. Oh, wait, we have you?
Any better now?
Answer your phone.
You guys are mute.
Okay, Paul.
Wait, or have him mute himself.
Do we have you?
Tell him to mute himself.
Just mute yourself. Shut your
No, because
computer.
I think it might still record him, no? Even if you're turning the computer volume down. But
There you go. Perfect.
Okay.
Okay, Paul. Do we have you live? Yes. Okay, great.
Alright.
Okay, that's a lot more pleasant for everyone. So you were talking about a pre and post inspection, making sure we don't run into unforeseen conditions, and then we lost you to our technical issues here.
Right. Well, so thanks. So what I was mentioning is we've been on site to look at the system, and that first bullet, the pre-inspection, really is to establish the leakage in the ductwork, and then you see the second bullet from the bottom, a post-sealing inspection. This is ultimately such that we can fully document how much sealing we've done and prove in our measurement verification plan the savings that we've achieved. So there's, like Chris mentioned, we don't have any concern over the quality of the ductwork. We're not going to be touching anything. Ultimately, we're going to be going through the process of sealing that. So that pre-inspection helps us to identify the existing leakage and be able to more confidently guarantee those energy savings that we identify in Exhibit C of the contract.
Did you guys, I'm not sure who's the address, did you guys look at variable speed motors on compressors and stuff for the air handling units? I think that was not identified as a.
Correct. Unfortunately.
Because they're so efficient already?
Well, there's a couple issues. Because they're very, you're never going to achieve like enough savings to replace the actual air handler off of just doing the new drives. But some of the older equipment can't take the new drives, so it's like you fix one thing and you could mess up everything else. It'd be more expensive. So.
Yeah, and it is typically to measure though with respect to just adding VFDs onto the system. And again, Raj is much more intimately familiar with your system than I am. But if there was opportunities for that, they would be in there. And I'm looking through our pro forma here, and as Chris will attest, that we worked with the mayor as well to try to make a project that looks as financially appealing to the city right now as possible. You know, I'm looking at quite literally about 30 items that we looked at that we call it. We know system upgrade within the city hall that we note out just because it didn't pay, adding an economizer for the hot deck, cold deck system there at City Hall. Replace the hand valves on some heating equipment in the fire stations. Just a lot of different things. Generator heat pumps that got noted out of the DPW garage and the water, or fire headquarters. Some building envelope didn't pay, so we turned that off. Destratification fans in the St. Mary's Rec Center. Steam trap replacements, transformer replacements. So I guess what I'm just saying is that we really went through, and if that had been an opportunity for what we, quote unquote, call low-hanging fruit, we would have put drives on there.
All right, thank you, Paul. The next chunk would be the needlepoint bipolar ionization installation at City Hall. I think there's been some significant pushback from some council members on this, including the fact that there is no Siemens warranty on this. We have a functional system now, even though the maintenance is slightly costly. And there was some questions about technology. I think again, I wish some other members were here that had specific concerns, but I think including this might be a killer to the overall deal.
Yeah.
How important was that in terms of achieving energy savings?
I think we can get to where the city wants to be. I mean, it was helpful, but I think we can zero that out and get to where the city wants to be if that's the stumbling block. I mean, Paul, can you take a gander at the cash flow because you have it live and make sure that's not.
Yeah, absolutely. So we had two means of savings there. So as everybody might be aware, there's the current UV lights that are, very energy intensive, and then the NPDI system doesn't use a whole lot of energy. So there was a little bit of energy savings, but then ultimately those lights burn out and cost the city money to replace. And so we figured on about, let's see, $3,115 a year for that replacement. And that's based off of an actual calculated methodology. But and our guaranteed savings from an electrical standpoint was about $2,200. So that's fine. Ultimately, probably it's essentially carrying itself is what it looks like. So I don't think that we would have, it won't dramatically move the needle one way or the other from an ultimately a simple payback standpoint, if you know what I mean. So over the course of the life, it's not necessarily help or hurt too much. And if it's a technology people or, like you said, gonna really have heartburn over, it would be fine to remove.
All right, let's pull it, and that'll hopefully make Councilman Dundon a little bit happier, and it seems like it's okay to get rid of.
The next chunk would be the programmable thermostat installation. I don't think anyone has a particular issue with those. Other than that, I mean, I would think simple setbacks probably would work in most of these situations. Like most of these things in the winter in the parks just need to stay above freezing. So I was a little, again, these are relatively minor expenses, I'm sure, just throwing some thermostats, but I don't know the actual savings is that.
These actually help, again, like you said, it's a relatively low cost item, and then you'd be surprised at how the simple payback on setting something back that's running 24 hours a day currently helps.
But again, I don't know if they do. Like most of these, like the pool buildings are they just need to stay above freezing in winter. We're not turning them up to people comfort temperatures, generally speaking.
Behavioral.
There was one in the presentation that I was like, I think it was in a parks building. Maybe it wasn't like.
I think it's worth.
Where it's behavioral too, like you have say a contractor in there, they
Right.
jack the thing up, they're there, they're doing work, then they leave, and then no one else
It
is really,
stays up,
it
yeah.
stays up, so that's where you're seeing that.
Yeah, what I heard from Councilman Dundon was the ductwork and the bipolar ionization.
And then weatherization, I mean, we can always, I don't know, my gripe with that is that I can't believe we have a brand new fire station that we're having to go back and do these things. But I'm sure in a lot of the older facilities, and Raj was very good about taking me through some of the issues with the fire station in particular. I think the roof penetrations were a particular observable issue with leakage. So I'm satisfied with that. I don't know if anyone else has other comments. What else? Heat pumps. Or I'm sorry, we did the charging station. The last item is the heat pumps. I did have a question about the water plant, the one at the water plant. We apparently have a one in place they seem to be relatively happy with, and it's in a already heated building, so they're not super concerned, and we have a maintenance contract on it already, I guess. I don't, so that might be one where we're disturbing a fine thing already. I don't know if there's, you folks have feedback on that, or
What's that in the cash flow?
Same thing. It just about carries itself over the term of the project. It helps probably just a touch, but
Yeah.
and again, it's not a whole ton of money either.
I mean, I'm not invested either way.
Yeah.
I'm just getting feedback that the one there is
Functioning well.
If they're happy and they don't.
So what is the overall rationale on it?
There's energy savings that are achieved on the heat pump. Like when you're doing an audit, you're looking for anything that provides payback, right? So there's positive payback on those. But if the positive payback is going to be outweighed by disrupting what's happening there now, the biggest positive payback is going to be moving this quickly and starting to do that lighting. So that's an impediment to that.
So let me, well, I'll confirm what I just told you, but let's.
Yeah, so it does pay for itself, looking at it from a energy standpoint. That's why it was in there. And again, going back to it, Raj had investigated it. We quote noted out at the fire headquarters and the DPW garage. So 2 other units didn't pay for themselves based off of the cost of the savings, but that one at the water filtration plant did. Heat pump is a lot more efficient than just using electric resistance heat. So that's why that one was.
I think the idea is that one is already in a heated building, so that system rarely gets used. That's my understanding. So.
Why don't we, let's drop it.
And then my other sort of concern was just making sure that most of the lighting upgrades are, a lot of them are in, workspaces, some of them are in office spaces, all that stuff, but aesthetic concerns are such as they are in municipal buildings.
Like these?
Yes, like these other things. By the way, when you folks are looking at the ducts, if anyone could stop this rattle in the ceiling, that'd be awesome.
Yeah.
It is better than it's like a moving train. Anyway, just as far as fixture selection and such, those are, I don't know who kind of keeps an eye on those as the purchases are being made and coming through.
Yeah, absolutely. So anything, it goes to the city for sign off, and a lot of the locations where you're relamping, where your fixtures work or just fine, but you're putting in new ballasts and lighting, we'll work with that individual department. You usually hear the most concerns from like places like clerk's offices where everyone is sitting either at a desk or a computer all day long underneath these lights.
Yeah.
So it's, do we need to drop the temperatures down a little bit? Do we need to drop them up? Making sure there's close coordination with the city and with the city departments, so you're not going and disturbing folks while they're trying to perform marriage licenses. If they do those all day on Friday, you don't want to be changing out lighting all day on Friday. So just be smart about how you do it.
Questions, concerns, feedback?
Well, I'm struggling.
And I'm sure we're gonna want to see the updated payoff.
The window treatments in City Hall.
Yeah.
That was just weatherization around what was there.
It's solar film.
And solar.
Yeah. In an ideal world,
We could clean the window.
yeah.
Right, and that's what I'm thinking. It's like, I mean, that stuff, not super expensive. It's not cheap either. It's almost kind of.
So the rationale behind that was we looked at, actually went so far as to price doing windows for City Hall. Those you're never going to pay for themselves with energy savings alone, right? And we didn't want to come back to the city and say, hey, you wanted a project that paid for itself and cut emissions and that sort of thing. Here's a $4 million project that includes all brand new windows. It doesn't pay for itself. So looking at how the city's doing long-term planning, so what can we do to make conditions more comfortable as you, think and work and develop your budgets in a way that it would allow you to accomplish full window replacements, which, in a municipal building, things like that are always going to come last after you pay city staff, after you mow the grass at parks, et cetera. So essentially take the edge off.
The concern there is just like, let's say like 10 years into this contract, but now we found a way to replace the windows. Is it like worth it to have done the treatments, or is it?
For the people who are in those offices, yes, and like the saving, if the savings on just like the window treatments were what the entire project hinged on, no. But for a very small portion of it to improve comfort, you're not, in 10 years, you're not gonna be, that's not gonna like destroy the entire project or destroy the cash flow just because you replace the windows.
That one's a little my pet project. You've been in my office in July.
When it's,
Yeah.
Yeah.
And
I
the
hope
folks
that-
in planning and everything else, yeah.
I hope you replace the windows in 5 years.
Right.
yes, the greenhouse kind of.
Even in Dr. Berling's office on that side, like the windows here are kind of interesting because they were built so that you didn't have to go outside to clean them, so they're reversible. So you can like maybe like swing in. And I've never seen another building, like I can't even find the spec that someone else did this. It was like, back when the building was built and I guess funds were flush, it was an awesome idea. The problem is they're really tough to seal.
Do we clean them often?
No.
Well, we could. So it's not. The comfort is the real value of the project.
All right, thoughts, feelings, questions, concerns? We have a model to go forward here a little bit.
So just to review, starting in EV, we're gonna take Moravito down to 8. We're gonna take DPW down to 2. Webster Street will get 2. Collier Street lot will get 2. I think we answered the question on the ductwork. We're going to remove bipolar ionization, remove the heat pump at the water plant. And I think those were the changes that Siemens needs to make in the scope of work, right?
And figure out what we're doing with Water Street grant,
Okay.
right?
And we can turn those around relatively quickly. I think the greatest concern is making sure we're locking down the NYSERDA funding and that sort of thing. When, assuming, finance committee is in favor and supportive, what would be the next full city council meeting that we would need to have this prepared by to get it on the agenda, to get it voted on so we can move forward.
Well, how fast can you rejigger all of this?
So we have to get an RL by noon on the 14th to have it on the 19th, May 19th work session agenda. So
Done.
So you,
the day before would be great, just because we got to circulate for signatures and everything. So we can get it on the 14th and it can hit the work session on May 19th.
yes.
Share the notes with all the council right after this.
Sarah's
Just
gonna,
so that,
Sarah's gonna do this from this.
That's fine. So that there's not like a,
You can have this if you want. Meaningful underline.
Motion to adjourn.
second,
All in favor?
I,
All right, we're on time. Thank you so much. Appreciate it, Chris. Thank you,
no,
Paul.
thank you.